I think the most memorable thing was swallowing 2 batteries. Talking about a lad now, sometimes these people go under the radar or you forget about them. I think they were called HP2s, HP11s, yeah, they were a battery. About that diameter, about that in size. Yeah, we had a lad who swallowed a couple of them in order to get himself to hospital for a day out. Forgot all about this guy. How we doing? Stephen? So, I sometimes forget, people just joining the channel might not know what I'm talking about. So, a juvenile prisoner in the UK is 16 to 18 years old. A young offender is 18 to 21. The lad I'm going to talk about now, can't remember his name. Well, after I've told you, if I told you he wasn't someone who was memorable, it's because he was sort of quiet and went under the radar. This lad was a juvenile, and as a juvenile, he was made an adult, yeah? He was put in the adult prison estate. It's very unusual, that. I've seen a few people from juveniles put in male adult prisons. Young offenders used to be kept separate. When I first worked with young offenders, they were separate to the rest of the prison population. Then it was decided, because they are a particularly volatile set of young men, to mix them with the prison population. So when I worked in the private sector, instead of having a wing full of remand young offenders, quite disruptive, lots of fights, interesting times, they'd spread them out, put some on every wing to calm them down. The adult wings were much more, if you could say that, civilised. They did that, and at first the young offenders just took over, as it were. Some of them were bullied, and they wreaked havoc on the bullies. So let's get back to this lad. First time I come across him, I was asked to get kitted up. I was working in a segregation unit in the private sector. Pretty much every day you were getting kitted up. By that I mean full PPE, riot gear. You know, you've seen it on TV. Coppers pretty much, and the army wear the same riot gear as prison officers. Overalls, big boots, belts, pads, helmets, gloves and the like. So we went down to one of the wings from the segregation unit, 2 teams of staff. That's 8 staff in full gear. In the briefing we were told this lad was 17. He'd been made an adult prisoner because he was disruptive, violent, confrontational, assaultative. That's my word, that. It's not in the dictionary, but I'm sure you know what I mean. And a whole host of other things. We were on the wing. He was on the twos landing, single cell, high risk. We were all kitted up. We told he'd assaulted a prisoner pretty bad. He did assault him, that was quite definite. That prisoner had gone to hospital, blue lighted to hospital, and he barricaded himself in a cell and greased up. So prisoners, shall we say professional prisoners who have been around a bit. If you were going into a cell to restrain someone, they would grease up. Anything they got, body lotion, shower gel, put it on the floor, make the floor slippy, put it on themselves. So as a member of staff, you're taught to restrain people with various arm locks, wrist locks and the like. Somebody is covered in shower gel or Vaseline or body lotion or whatever. It's very difficult to do that. So we told this lad had greased up and he barricaded himself, so we're kitted up. There was a camera there, all manner of staff, the whole jail was locked down. I know it was a warm day. I remember sweating my titties off, as it were. So we were there on the landing, 2 teams of staff, 4 staff in each team. There was some toing and froing, a governor speaking. We were told to get ready. You know, adrenaline's kicked in a bit. I was shield man in the first team. Yeah, shield against the door, back of the cell, and in you go. We didn't get that far. Governor turned and looked at us. Hand signal. Yeah, he was coming out. He was surrendering. Oh dear. Now me, I'm quite happy for someone to surrender. Yeah, it was a hot day. It means we weren't going in the cell, and on the paperwork front, it was an easy life. Some of the lads there were less than impressed. You know, we'd been in full gear now for about an hour, and there were some choice words. So I hadn't seen this lad. The governor had been talking to him. Anyway, he came out, backed out of the cell. There is a de-escalation techniques. I was involved in that. He was told, I'm just laughing at some of the lads, I remember this. Told he needed to back out of the cell. I had a shield to his back. 2 officers with me would come round, take an arm each, put his arms in the middle of his back, and he would be cuffed. And that's what happened. Now, this lad was quite jolly coming out. First of all, for a 17-year-old, he was well built. He was short, stocky, maybe looked 21, but he was, you know, he looked like a bit of a unit. Got something about him. Says to me, "You all right, boss? Yeah? Are you wanting that? Yeah?" We're taking his helmets off by this time, and he starts having a bit of a laugh. It's de-escalation, yeah? So I was quite happy to talk to him. I was a SEG officer. He asked me that. I said, "Yeah, down a SEG." He said, "We'll get to know each other, me and you." I said, "Okay." Again, people were pissed, but that's how it is. Anyway, he got down the SEG. He was placed on report for the assault. That went to the police. Let me explain what an adjudication is. If you misbehave in prison, take drugs, assault people, found with weapons, get caught thieving, that sort of thing, you can be placed on report. That would mean you'd be put in front of a governor, like a mini court, and you could be given punishment. The least you could get if you went guilty is a caution, which is what it says, right down to getting nothing. Let me tell you, some of the punishment, CC, cellular confinement, basically means you're in a cell. It's like solitary anyway, but it can be enhanced. When I mean enhanced, I don't mean, you know, we give you things, I mean nothing. You know, I've seen people placed on CC with no newspapers or books and things like that. Now, for me, that's punitive. Yeah, don't matter how bad someone's been, to take away sort of literature and things off people. But there you go, governors used to stand it out and they used to do the rip. So, in the segregation, as a member of the day staff, we would get the files, prisoners' files. Those prisoners that had been placed on report, the night officer would do the paperwork. I used to hate it. But we'd fetch the files over in the day, on nights, previous. You know, you'd have a file, a security file. So this lad, 3 of us fetched his files. It weren't a file, they were fucking boxes, and I mean boxes. I don't know how many there were, I can't remember. We asked the SO whether we had to bring them all over, explained the situation. He says, "Yeah, you do." So we fetched them over, boxes and boxes of paperwork. This lad would be in, and probably at the top, most disruptive, most violent, most assaultative, most self-fires, self-harm. He was a self-harmer, you know, he used to swallow things and stuff like that. You might not consider that self-harm, but imagine swallowing 2 fucking big batteries like that. Lots and lots of things. Again, he was 17, boxes and boxes and boxes of security paperwork. So we had him down there in the segregation unit. We had a few situations where he refused to go in his cell and we had to restrain him, and it took a lot of staff. He didn't assault anyone, but some of these people, they gained skills, and he was able to resist all attempts to put him in locks. And like I say, he was a strong lad. He had that mental illness strength. You know, 20 minutes, staff are knackered, and he's still fighting. When I say fighting, he's resisting you, and he had that. When I was on nights, I had a little chat with him. He said, will he speak to me later? I said, yes. They all knew down the seg, you do the paperwork when you first go down, all the nickings. Like I say, I used to hate it. It used to take me hours. So you'd keep an eye on people, do your checks, settle people down there, maybe 2 or 3 hours doing paperwork. I went out to do a check down the landing, saw a trickle of water under his door. In the segregation unit, you could turn water off outside the cell. Prisoners used to be very disrupted down the seg, cell fires and the stuff. So you removed access for them to sort of flood the cell or whatever. However, you allowed them drinking water. So I saw a trickle of water. I turned his water off. I went to his pad. You know, bit of a laugh. I've caught you. He says, I must apologise, Mr. Samworth. He was stood. I might be exaggerating now, but there was a lot of water in his cell. So what he'd done, he had got toilet paper around his door. He had sealed it. The sink, the little sink, he used to press a button, press it in, and the amount of water would come out. Yeah? Press it in, the amount of water would come out, then it'd stop. He must have been stood there for 3 or 4 hours pressing this. Yeah? And onto his floor. He was paddling in water. He removed some of the toilet paper and he flooded the seg. Again, it made me laugh. We had a bit of a joke. I spent 2 or 3 hours with an industrial type vacuum cleaner sucking water up. The other prisoners were kicking off. The Oscar 1 weren't happy, but again, I don't know whether the word like, but I couldn't help liking the lad. He made me laugh. Again, now, looking back, probably one of the most dangerous ever people I come across. His security files, for the amount of assaults, you know, reading through some of the stuff he'd done, it was just horrendous. Very dangerous, very disruptive. I had to think what his childhood had been like. And he'd been assaulting people since 8, 9 and 10 years old in care. Again, you've got to wonder. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. This guy come into my head today, so I thought I'd vlog it. Hope you're well. Thanks to everyone who supported me on Patreon, bought me a brew, everyone who's contributed to the channel. Yeah, parting shot as always. Now then, lad. Go on then. Go on then. Thanks for coming. I'll see you.